This video is brought to you by Sony. Learn what happens when artists meet engineers.
Hey guys, this is Jose Otero for IGN. I'm here with Marty Sleva.
Hey.
Recently, Marty and I went over to Nintendo and we played some of their spring eShop offerings, which was pretty cool. So we're going to go around and just kind of give you our impressions about, I think we played about 6 titles.
Yeah, we played about 6 of them. They were spread out between 3DS and Wii U, and it was sort of Nintendo's kind of opening salvo into like a real, like a actual like push for indies.
Yeah, that's right.
And so yeah, I mean we started off with Shovel Knight.
That's right.
Which is the rad Yacht Club games.
Yes.
And as a Kickstarter, it's just sort of throwback, feels a lot like Castlevania and Mega Man, and we played the same thing that we've covered in the past. The game feels really good, sounds great. You got to hear some of the stuff from the soundtrack, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I didn't know until recently, and this was part of my ignorance, that the soundtrack was being done by Jake Kaufman, who does a lot of work for Way Forward. He composes amazing stuff. I love his work, and also. What they showed is a demo we've seen before, but it's very classic, very awesome. It's on Wii U and 3DS, so that's really cool.
And we're gonna have more soon. We have some stuff coming up in the works very soon. So
absolutely. So then from there we went over to Treasure Knots, which is a game by Renegade Kid, who also made Mutant Mudds, you may know. And so Treasure Knots is really cool because we previewed it in the past, and it's sort of collect a lot of treasure. You're sort of going through levels and trying to find hidden treasure chests, and then getting the best score possible coming out.
And it's kind of like Sonic, where
you dump them all.
Every time you get hit, you lose all your treasure, and so you have to gather.
You also lose 20%, off the bat, the minute you get hit. 20% of that treasure.
There was, I think, the one level that both of us really gravitated towards. It's sort of this you're in this haunted mine, haunted house.
It's called Curse. Right now, it's called the Curse stage, but So it's sort of a haunted area. There's a big blue crystal in the center. And as you move around the level, you notice that the colors get desaturated, and the world, the music starts to slow down. And so then you see these really big ghosts come out.
Now, and they can move through walls and everything. They'll just come straight for you.
They can move through anything. They sort of remind you of the ghosts in Spelunky. And much like the ghosts in Spelunky, the minute one touches you, it's game over. That's it. You're done.
So you're exploring this area, gathering treasure, but also you have to keep making trips back to the center in order to ring the gong or the lantern or whatever.
If you hit the blue crystal, you purify the stage so that all the ghosts go away.
But it only stays purified for a little bit. So that was a lot of fun. I think that mode had a ton of potential.
Yeah, and Treasure Knots has this cool mechanic where you're either using a sword, a gun, or bombs, and the bombs require a lot of skill because you want to make sure they don't blow up right next to you, because you'll lose all your treasure. And it was really cool the way you can picture in 2-player mode, like someone hanging out by the blue crystal while the other guy is running around gathering treasure. And sure
that looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. So Renegade Kid also had Moon.
Yes, Moon Chronicles, which we announced recently on IGN. It's a first-person shooter for 3DS. And so this was our first sort of hands-on. Now for folks, I think it's really important to point out though, if you haven't played Moon before on DS, that the pacing of Moon is a lot slower and quieter, more ambient than you would say Call of Duty or sort of the modern idea of what FPSs are.
I think its analog is sort of Metroid Prime, but from what we played there, I was not super impressed by it. You start off on this spaceship, and this derelict spaceship, and everything looks the same. We controlled it. You can use the Circle Pad Pro, but we controlled it using sort of the left hand on the analog and then right hand with the stylus, so it's kind of like Kid Icarus. By the end of the demo, my hand started to hurt just because I'm a baby and can't handle it.
No, sure, and the control scheme definitely, these guys made Dimension in the Ward, they made Moon on DS as well. That control scheme is really precise, but it's something that takes a little getting used to. I did like it for the most part. I mean, I did feel like, there is sort of a tone of green on everything. So maybe that blended into why you felt a lot of it.
And this was only the first level, so hopefully, going forward, first level, the first episode. So hopefully going forward. And
there's more simplistic enemies that sort of just fly around and shoot at you, versus later, there's a boss that you fight that he was actually really tough.
And then from there, we moved on to 1001 Spikes.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite.
So this is published by Nicalis, and we played a mode that's sort of a co-op versus mode, where there is a big vase that, as long as you're holding it, you're making money. But the minute you drop the vase, or everyone's coming after you for the vase, basically. And so each of the characters also had different types. So there was, the standard adventure type for 1001 Spikes, but then there's a Mario clone, a Simon Belmont clone. Who was the last clone? Do you remember?
God, who was it? Was it Link?
Was it Link? No. I just remember a green outfit, but I'm not entirely sure.
But it was a lot of fun. I mean, it had that sort of 4-player 2D kind of like a callback. It felt like the wackiness of Smash Brothers or something like, you know, Towerfall or Samurai Gun, to where, you know, 4 of us, you could immediately jump in, you immediately got it. It was short, like 1 minute, 2 minute rounds, but it was a ton of fun. You know, it was pretty much playing keep away. Yeah, spikes everywhere. You die like 1,000 times. Definitely one of those things that you know, it's a mode very much removed from the single player mode, but it's I think something that people are going to be able to have a lot of fun, especially if you can get 4 people into a room gathered around the same monitor.
Yeah, no, it was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
You played Retro City Rampage DX, which we just found out is coming out this month. Yeah, approved $9.99 on the eShop.
Yep.
There's no firm date attached to it yet.
So all these games are coming relatively soon. I think February or March. That's what they're shooting for. So yeah, Retro City Rampage. You know, I played it. If you played it a ton on, you know, it was out on PSN 2 years back, a year and a half back or so. Yeah, it's the same. It's like a top-down. Kind of feels like the original, like GTA 1, but very much just inundated with homages to the 80s and to 80s classic gaming, to 8-bit gaming, to, you know, to everything, the Ninja Turtles, to G.I. Joe, to Metal Gear. And, you know, they changed some stuff. They zoomed out the camera a little bit. The touchscreen has, you know, map functionalities. And it was a fun game originally. It was like a tough game, but a really fun game. And I think, you know, it's probably not going to be something worth going back to if you already played it, but for, you know, Nintendo fans who didn't get a chance to play first time around, this is going to be a good download.
Yeah, and it's full of a lot of references to, like you said, a lot of older stuff, which is a lot of fun. Yeah. All right, cool. Then from that, we went to Wooden Sensei.
Wooden Sensei,
which is a game made in Unity. So, you know, Nintendo announced earlier this year, Unity announced earlier this year that
a partnership. Nintendo's kind of giving Unity for free to developers who kind of pledged to work on the Wii U.
So this is sort of an action platformer that is set in Japan. You're collecting sake. You play as the Wooden Sensei. He has sort of 2 axes that he can use to throw out at enemies. Kind of similar to God of War, but nowhere near as flashy. Way more simplistic. The second or third stage was really weird because then it was in a submarine.
Underwater.
It felt a lot more like underwater levels in Mario or even Balloon Fight, where you're constantly trying to judge where you are so that then you can sort of attack or move forward.
Yeah, and it was a good looking game. It was really stylish, good music, good art direction, and I think sort of as a litmus test for what Unity can do on a Nintendo platform, I think it's exciting. You know, they said they have a ton of other games in development too that they'll, you know, talk about in the near future. So that was exciting. And then the last one you got to play was
Fiesta,
which was a weird. It was like a Arkanoid brick breaker where you have a little thing at the bottom and you're bouncing a ball back and forth, but it's a scrolling platformer almost. And so
it's really
I couldn't really wrap my head around it. While
it was really tough to play at first. So you're basically a character who's bouncing off of his bed and hitting into blocks, and you're getting points based off of that. There are also power-ups that work in unique ways. So for example, you can get an ice power-up that'll freeze certain blocks so that they're easier to break. And there were other types of gameplay as well. I think there's one where you're firing him out of a cannon, kind of like Donkey Kong. And the objective is to never hit the ground, like to try and keep sliding the bed so that you can keep this character in the air and keep building up chain points. Also, what made it really hard is there are certain blocks you can't hit. So there was this one stage where my score just went to complete garbage.
Yeah, because you kept hitting.
Because I kept hitting those blocks. It was awful.
Yeah, and that was this is a 3DS game.
This is a 3DS game. It's really strange. It's got a very sort of vibrant and weird art direction, but you know, it's trying to have fun. It seems to be fun, and if you dig sort of that classic Arkanoid brick-breaking vibe, it would probably be up your alley, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway from the showcase was, you know, the lineup's not as strong as like what Sony has on PSN or what even like some of Microsoft's better, some of arcade lineups, but it shows that Nintendo is making a push for these. Like these indie games, they want to, you know, kind of give them their spotlight. And, you know, this was a good sort of litmus test in terms of, you know, a big variety of games. You know, it didn't have that like Braid or Journey or Limbo, but you know, as a starting point for Nintendo, I think this is, you know, it's exciting. I think Nintendo fans should get excited with, you know, this slate of games coming this spring, and you know, we'll see what's coming in summer and fall, and, you know, next year.
No, definitely, and Nintendo's definitely trying to build awareness for us, right? Like last year, one of the great word of mouth games was SteamWorld Dig, which none of us saw coming, and I don't think Nintendo saw it coming too. And I think that an event like this was aimed to kind of show us, hey, this is what we have coming. This is what's cool.
Put it on people's radars before it comes out.
Let people know. And I agree with you. It doesn't have quite the ambition of what Sony goes for with their indie exclusives. But at the same time, it shows a lot of effort and I think a lot of growth for them. Hopefully they continue to, you know, promote that and, you know, then go for someone like Cappy Games or one of the other, you know, bigger sort of indies that make, you know, really cool sort of projects, and we hope that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
So for more eShop, indies, game coverage, make sure you keep it, and Nintendo actually,
of course.
Nintendo coverage as well. Make sure you keep it right here at IGN.